The most annoying thing when it comes to 3D printing is leaving your printers on and then coming home like a few hours later to a big old spaghetti mess of filament. It's super annoying and I just hate when that happens. Today I'm going to be teaching you like 5 reasons why that happens and how to prevent it. The number one thing that causes print failure is an uneven bed. Most people have their bed set up incorrectly. If you have a printer that doesn't automatically level itself, you have to go in and adjust the knobs and put a piece of paper under it until it's perfectly level, because some people have it too close to where the extruder gets jammed because it can't extrude anything, or it's too far away and it just makes a big old spaghetti mess. So go make sure your bed's adjusted correctly. Look up a video on it, because if you don't, it could lead to issue number 2 I'm about to discuss. So when 3D printing, clogged nozzles are a common occurrence. I've experienced this many times, and I recommend having some extra nozzles on hand because they come in handy, let me tell you. I've had it happen so many times, and that's a result of just things getting trapped inside the nozzle, or like I said, the bed leveling gets trapped because it can't print anything. So have some extra nozzles on hand. It doesn't take more than like 15 minutes max, but it's just another thing that's annoying, and you're gonna have to check it, make sure nothing's going wrong there, but it's not too bad. Another minor mistake I've made when it comes to 3D printing is not having the correct slicer settings. Like for an example, a large part of 3D printing is making sure that your slicer settings are tuned in correctly and stuff. And I had the printer, for example, like going at too fast of speeds to where it's just going all over the place, and the print comes out all crappy with these layer lines that are just ugly. And another example is I've had not enough support. So like I'll be printing something, it's printing, and there's a overhang right here without supports here. So there's nothing here. It just collapses and makes a huge mess. And those are some mistakes I've made. So make sure your slicer settings are tuned correctly. The next big thing that I sucked at when I first started was keeping your filament nice and neat, because it comes like this, right? And there's like holes right here for you to clip your filament into the holes to keep it into place. If you just have your filament out like this and you tangle it up and toss it on a shelf, which is what I used to do when I first started, it's gonna get tangled up, and it's gonna eventually get wrapped around something else and get caught. It won't budge when it's printing. It'll tug on it like this, and yeah, that'll cause problems for your printer. So in order to stop it from getting jammed up, you have to take your filament, put it in these holes to keep it all nice and tidy, and then put it on the shelf. Don't just wrap it around without securing it. Another thing most people do when 3D printing, which I don't recommend, is they'll start their printer and then walk away from it right away. I do this a lot actually, but it's not the best thing to do, because I recommend staying for the first like 10 minutes while it heats up and does the first layer, because if your printer fails on the first layer, like 90% of the time the print fails because it doesn't have a good foundation. So I recommend staying until your printer is done laying down the first layer, because then at that point chances are it'll print successfully. But just in general, I recommend monitoring your printer so that you don't come back to a big old spaghetti mess and it's failed. By far the biggest mistake I've seen people make when 3D printing is actually buying a 3D printer in the first place. Like, what kind of idiot does that? Anyways, that's it for the video today. Go subscribe if you like 3D printing content, and let me know in the comments what your biggest 3D printing mistake has been. I'd like to hear them. Or if you have any questions, just hit me up.
Subscribe.